The streets were cold, winter cold, the kind that cuts through clothes, through skin, through everything, makes survival feel impossible, makes warmth feel like luxury, makes fire barrels feel like salvation. 3 people huddled around a barrel fire in an alley off Mathew Street near the cavern. 2 men, 1 woman, all older, 50s maybe, hard to tell. Homelessness ages you, makes 50 look 70, makes survival look like defeat. They were warming their hands, that's all, just standing. Warming, trying to stay alive through another night, another hour, another moment. Not talking, not planning, just being, just surviving, just making it through. 50 feet away, walking back from a late recording session, were 4 young men, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, the Beatles, on the edge of everything. Success coming, fame approaching, but not there yet. Still Liverpool kids, still walking home, still being exactly who they'd always been. And in exactly 2 minutes, everything was about to change. John noticed them first, the 3 people, the fire, the way they stood, silent, desperate, surviving. He stopped walking. The others stopped too. All 4 Beatles, standing in the cold, looking at 3 homeless people, wondering, understanding, recognizing something. "That could be us," John said quietly. Paul nodded. "That was almost us. Month ago, before things started happening, we were this close to being them instead of us." George looked at the 3 people. "Should we do something?" "What can we do?" Ringo asked. John started walking toward them. "Let's find out." And what happened in the next hour didn't just help 3 homeless people. It changed how the Beatles saw success, saw privilege, saw responsibility. Proved that fame and money and opportunity don't erase where you came from. Don't erase understanding. Don't erase the obligation to help, to see, to stop when everyone else walks past. But to understand why what the Beatles did made everyone cry, you need to understand who these 3 people were and how close the Beatles had been to the same fate. The woman's name was Margaret Flynn, 62 years old, homeless for 5 years. Lost her husband in 1958, lost her job in 1959, lost her flat in 1960, lost everything except the will to survive, and some days even that felt questionable. The first man was Thomas Walsh, 57, former dock worker, injured on the job, back destroyed, can't work, can't provide, can't do anything except survive, day by day, night by night, fire barrel to fire barrel. The second man was Patrick O'Brien, 60, former musician, played pubs, made enough to survive. Then arthritis took his hands, took his ability, took his livelihood, left him with nothing except memory, and memory doesn't pay rent, doesn't buy food, doesn't keep you warm on December nights. The Beatles walked closer. Margaret noticed first, 4 young men, well-dressed, walking toward them. Her instinct was fear. Because homeless people learn. People don't approach with kindness. They approach with judgment, with disgust, with demands to move, to leave, to be invisible somewhere else. But John's face wasn't judgmental, wasn't disgusted, was something else, something Margaret hadn't seen in 5 years. Recognition, understanding, humanity. "Evening," John said. "Mind if we join you?" The 3 homeless people looked at each other, confused. Nobody joins homeless people. Nobody shares fire barrels. Nobody voluntarily stands with people society ignores. "It's a free country," Thomas said carefully. The Beatles moved closer, stood around the fire, not separate, not distant, right there, part of the circle, warming their hands, being present, being exactly what the moment needed. Silence for a while, just the sound of fire, of wind, of Liverpool at night. Then Paul spoke. "You from Liverpool?" he asked Margaret. "Born here, lived here my whole life. You?" "Same, all of us. Liverpool born, Liverpool raised." "You're those lads," Patrick said, recognition dawning. "The musicians, the ones everyone's talking about, The Beatles. John smiled. Yeah, that's us. Heard you play at the Cavern few months back. You were good. Really good. Thank you. Margaret looked at them. Really looked. Why are you here? Why are you talking to us? People like you don't talk to people like us. Paul's voice was gentle. People like us were people like you. Month ago, 2 months ago, we were broke, couldn't pay rent, didn't know where next meal was coming from. We were this close to being exactly where you are. And we got lucky. That's the only difference. Luck, not talent, not deserving. Luck. So you're here out of guilt? Thomas asked. Not hostile, just honest, just trying to understand. We're here because you're human, John said. And we're human. And humans help humans, or they're supposed to, and we have the ability to help, so we should. It's that simple. George pulled out his wallet. How much do you need? For tonight? For food? For somewhere to sleep? How much? The three homeless people looked at each other, not believing, not understanding, not knowing how to respond. We're not asking for money, Margaret said. We're just trying to stay warm. I know, but I'm offering. We all are. How much? Patrick spoke quietly. A room for tonight. Costs about £2. Food maybe another pound. £3. That's one night. One night of not freezing, not starving, one night of being okay. George pulled out bills, handed them to Patrick. Not £3, £20. Enough for a week, maybe more. Enough to survive, to rest, to breathe. This is too much, Patrick said. It's not enough, George said. It's never enough, but it's what we have right now. Take it, please. Ringo handed money to Thomas, Paul to Margaret, all of them, all 4 Beatles, emptying wallets, giving what they had, not performing charity, being human, recognizing that the line between success and homelessness is thinner than anyone admits, that luck matters, that privilege requires responsibility, that seeing people matters more than anything. Margaret started crying. Why are you doing this? You don't know us. Don't owe us anything. Paul's eyes were wet too. We're doing this because someone might have done it for us. If things had gone differently, if luck hadn't happened, someone might have stopped, might have seen us, might have helped, and we would have needed it, would have been grateful, would have remembered. We're just doing what we'd hope someone would do. If we were you, if luck had gone the other way. John looked at the fire barrel. Where do you stay? When there's no fire, when it's too cold even for this. Shelters mostly, Thomas said. When they have space, when they let us in, when we can get there before they close. And when you can't, we survive, find doorways, find places, find ways. We've gotten good at surviving. You shouldn't have to be good at surviving, George said. You should be able to just live, just exist, just be human without it being an achievement. Ringo asked, what would help? Really help? Not just tonight, long term. What would make things better? The three looked at each other. Nobody had asked them that. Nobody had wondered what they needed. What would actually help, beyond temporary fixes, beyond single nights? Margaret spoke. Work, purpose, somewhere to live, dignity, being seen as human instead of being invisible, not being judged, not being treated like we chose this, like we want this, like we're happy being homeless. We're not. We're surviving, and we'd rather be living, but nobody asks, nobody cares, nobody stops. Paul looked at the others. Silent conversation, understanding, agreement. Then back at the three. We can't fix everything. We're just 4 kids from Liverpool, but we can do something. Give us your names, where you sleep, where we can find you. We're going to help, not just tonight, really help. We promise. They took names, locations, details, promised to follow through, promised to use whatever platform they were building, whatever success was coming, to help, to change things, to make sure people like Margaret and Thomas and Patrick weren't invisible, weren't forgotten, weren't left to freeze around fire barrels while the world walked past. Before they left, John did something unexpected. He took off his jacket, expensive jacket, the one Brian Epstein had bought him, for looking professional, for being a Beatle. He handed it to Thomas. "Take this. You need it more than I do." Paul gave his scarf to Margaret, George his gloves to Patrick, Ringo his hat. Not grand gestures, not publicity stunts, nobody watching, nobody recording, just 4 humans giving 4 items to 3 humans who needed them. Who'd remember? Who'd survive another night because someone stopped, someone saw, someone cared. They walked away. The 3 homeless people stood by the fire, holding jackets and scarves and gloves, holding money, holding hope, holding proof that someone had stopped, had seen them, had treated them like humans instead of problems. The Beatles kept their promise, used their growing platform, started talking about homelessness, about poverty, about the people Liverpool was forgetting, the people every city forgets, the people who survive while everyone walks past. They funded a shelter, quiet funding, no publicity, just money, enough to open a place, a warm place, a safe place, for people like Margaret and Thomas and Patrick, for people who needed somewhere, someone, something other than fire barrels and doorways and surviving. Margaret, Thomas, and Patrick stayed in that shelter, got help, got housing, got lives back. Not perfect lives, not everything they'd lost, but lives, dignity, purpose, the understanding that they mattered, that someone had stopped, had seen, had helped, had changed everything. Years later, in 1968, a reporter asked Paul about the shelter, the quiet funding, the help nobody knew about. "You've been funding a homeless shelter for 5 years. Why didn't you tell anyone?" Paul's answer was simple. Because help isn't about publicity, it's about helping. We met 3 people in 1963 by a fire barrel, and we realized how close we'd been, how luck is the only thing separating success from homelessness. And we promised to help. So we did. We do. We will. Not for credit, for them, for everyone like them, for everyone the world ignores. Do you still see them? Margaret, Thomas, Patrick? Yeah, they work at the shelter now, helping others. People who are exactly where they were. By fire barrels, desperate, invisible. They stop for people. They see. They help. Because someone did that for them. Because the Beatles stopped one December night. Because we were lucky. And luck requires responsibility, requires using what you have to help, to see, to stop walking past. Margaret was asked in 1970 about that night. "The Beatles changed your life. How do you feel about them?" "They saved me, not just with money, not just with shelter. They saw me. For the first time in 5 years, someone saw me as human, as worthy, as deserving." They didn't have to stop, didn't have to care, could have walked past like everyone else, but they didn't. They stopped. And that stopping changed everything. Not just for me, for everyone they've helped since. Everyone they'll help, because they remember being close, being almost us, and they never forgot. That's everything. December 1963, 4 young men stopped for 3 homeless people warming their hands by a fire barrel, and what they did made everyone who learned about it cry. Not because it was extraordinary, because it should be ordinary, because stopping should be normal, because seeing people should be expected, because helping shouldn't be remarkable, should be human. But the impact went further than 3 people, further than one shelter, further than anyone expected. The shelter. The Beatles funded became a model. Other cities copied it, not just in England, worldwide. Places that treated homelessness as choice instead of circumstance, as failure instead of bad luck, as something to punish instead of something to solve. The shelter had a rule, a simple rule, carved above the entrance. Luck is the only difference. Treat everyone accordingly. That philosophy changed how staff worked, how volunteers helped, how people were seen, not as problems, not as failures, as humans who'd had bad luck, who deserved the same respect, the same dignity, the same opportunities as anyone else. By 1975, 12 years after that December night, the shelter had helped over 3,000 people. Not just temporary housing, real help, job training, mental health support, addiction treatment, everything people needed to get back, to survive, to live instead of just existing. And every person who came through learned the story. At about December 1963, about 3 people by a fire barrel, about the Beatles stopping, about luck being the only difference, about responsibility being the only appropriate response to privilege. Patrick, the former musician with arthritis, became the shelter's director in 1970, ran it until 1985, helped thousands. Every single one heard about that night, about being seen, about someone stopping. I tell them what the Beatles taught me, Patrick said in 1980, that falling doesn't make you a failure, that needing help doesn't make you weak, that homelessness isn't character, it's circumstance. And circumstance can change. If someone stops, if someone sees, if someone helps. The Beatles stopped for me, I stop for everyone who comes here. That's how it works. That's how we change things. One stop, one person, one night at a time. Thomas worked at the shelter too, until he died in 1982. Every night he'd stand outside, looking for people by fire barrels, by doorways, by anywhere people survived. And he'd stop, he'd see, he'd bring them in. Thousands of them, over 20 years. Thomas saved more people than anyone, Patrick said at his funeral, because he never forgot what it felt like to be invisible, to be cold, to need someone to stop. He stopped for everyone, literally everyone, because the Beatles stopped for him. Margaret lived until 1995, worked at the shelter, helped women specifically, women who'd lost husbands, lost jobs, lost everything, women who felt invisible. She saw them all, every single one. Her last words, according to the nurse, were, "The Beatles stopped, I stopped, keep stopping. That's everything. That's everything." Look, if this story moved you, if you've walked past people who needed stopping for, if you've wondered if one person can make a difference, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs reminding that stopping matters, that seeing matters, that helping matters. We've completed 91 Beatles stories, 91 reminders that the Beatles stopped, always, every time, for everyone, because they remembered being close to needing someone to stop for them. Drop a comment. Have you stopped for someone? Have you been stopped for? Turn those notifications on. Remember, the line between success and homelessness is thinner than we admit. Luck matters, and luck requires responsibility, requires stopping, requires seeing, requires helping. The Beatles proved that by a fire barrel in Liverpool, when they stopped for 3 people warming their hands and changed everything.